Order. Order.
Good evening, welcome to the 6 o'clock news.
First tonight, the Hutton debate. It's exactly a week since Lord Hutton published his report and still the argument goes on.
The death of David Kelly was just one of thousands of casualties in this war. Each and every one of those deaths was a complete tragedy. And for us, that inquiry was used as a distraction from the pressure that was being put on Blair to explain why we went to war.
Good evening. A week after it was published, MPs had the chance to discuss the Hutton Report today. The debate included the usual front and backbench interventions.
Democracy isn't working when the vast majority of members of Parliament vote for something that the people are against, an illegal war.
At 6 o'clock, first the Hutton Report, now the debate. The voices of protest, but Tony Blair says he was right all along about the war.
So, that was that. All the critics of the Prime Minister, all those anti-war protesters rolled over and said, fair dues, you got it right. No.
What was really great was that there was another action before ours by the Judges for Justice. And these actions didn't just complement each other, they emphasised each other, so they seemed a lot stronger, because they were making the pictures and we made the sound.
The Downing Street whitewash protesters vent their anger over Hutton.
With people dressed as Lord Hutton throwing whitewash over the security gates.
They dressed as judges, but not the kind to clear Tony Blair of twisting the truth. Lord Hutton's verdict vindicated the Prime Minister. Today they delivered their verdict on Lord Hutton. Downing Street was soon cleared up, but for some all this has left an indelible mark.
The best way to deal with the Butler inquiry and the Hutton inquiry is simply to ridicule it. It really is ridiculous that the Prime Minister expects us to fall for this nonsense. Quite frankly, we'd have had more faith if he'd appointed Deputy Dog.
But there were also some unusual contributions from the public gallery.
There was chaos in the Commons today. The Speaker was forced to call a halt to the debate on the Hutton Report as Tony Blair was barracked by protesters.
The Prime Minister stands to the left and below the 157-seat public gallery, which is above the members' entrance and opposite the Speaker. There have been protests before. On one occasion, manure was thrown onto the famous green benches below. There have been suggestions of a glass screen separating the gallery from the rest of the Commons chamber. Such ideas may have to be revisited in light of this latest incident.
People have been told off in the past for knitting in the public gallery, and one couple was thrown out for kissing. A young Glaswegian who launched himself from the gallery, breaking his ankle, later told police he was well refreshed.
Well, the last time the debate was halted was in 1988 when it was a much, much better action than ours, in fact. Two women abseiled into the chamber. They were protesting against Section 28, and I mean, how they got their abseiling equipment past the security checks, I just don't know.
The Prime Minister was heckled as he was speaking in the Commons debate on the report. The sitting was suspended for the first time in 17 years.
It was really easy getting into House of Parliament. We queued up outside for about an hour and a half, and then we were led up, we were searched, and we had to do a bit more waiting, and then we were led up all the stairs. We had our bags taken from us, and then we're in there, we're in the public gallery, and below us was Tony Blair and all the MPs, and Tony Blair just looking smug.
Every single one of those claims was wrong. Not a little wrong, 100% wrong.
We really wanted it to look like an organised protest rather than just a bunch of nutters shouting at Tony Blair in the middle of Parliament.
The fact is that what you cannot possibly say is that Downing Street had anything to do with this.
The Prime Minister tried to ignore it at first, an anti-war protester shouting from the public gallery. But it soon became clear that this was an orchestrated protest, as another heckler took the place of the first after he'd been expelled from the chamber.
To be in support of the government's actions. Does the Prime Minister, on reflection, regret that selective use of material?
Sorry, for obvious reasons, I just missed the last part of what he said.
Tony Blair made light of it.
We cannot have a situation in...
For many people, this debate was just a smokescreen. for the real reasons why Blair took us to war.
We're got wrong in relation to this. But
Some critics he just can't silence.
We cannot have a situation. But the fact is...
Iraq has the second largest oil reserves in the world.
Wrong in relation to this. But
some critics will not be silenced. Time and again, Mr. Blair was interrupted from the public gallery.
Formerly state-owned enterprises in Iraq are in the process of being privatized, largely by American corporations. At the same time, Saddam Hussein's repressive labor laws are still in force over the Iraqi workers, meaning that they cannot organize.
There is, as suggested in the newspapers today, there is some missing intelligence on the 45 minutes. There is no missing intelligence on it. As far as I'm aware, Dr. Jones saw all the intelligence there was to see in it. So did Lord Hutton.
Thousands of tons of depleted uranium were dropped on Iraq cities during the war, causing massive suffering for generations to come.
But by now MPs were completely distracted.
The intelligence referred to in the article, which he did not see, perhaps if people just come back for a moment and concentrate on this.
Unexploded cluster bombs look like shiny children's toys. They carried on killing and maiming children even after the war was over.
Perhaps if people just come back for a moment and concentrate on this point, because...
Order. Unfortunately, I'll have to suspend the House and the public gallery will have to be clear. Unfortunately. The House is now suspended until 1:05. Order.
And House of Commons television switched to a picture of the Commons clock.
Media war. You're either with us or you're against us. Media war. Media war. You're either with us or you're against us. Media war.
Question the prevailing wisdom. Question the prevailing wisdom.
After we all stood up, we got picked up by his 4 doorkeepers. They're all ex-Marines, wearing coats and tails. We got taken out a bit roughly, but yeah, it's alright. And we got detained downstairs, and it was better than being arrested, really, because we got given cups of tea and got to watch The Weakest Link.
Police had locked the protesters in Parliament's cells by the time the debate resumed.
The media was really overwhelming. Just not expected, bizarrely.
One of the protesters was soon released.
Suddenly, for a fortnight, everything has been focused on what happens in the Houses of Parliament. So it was an opportunity to make a protest, because actually what was happening there was a complete whitewash.
When we came out and I saw all the cameras, I realised I wasn't prepared enough at all. And that made me realise how important it is to be well prepared on how to present your message to the media.
Tonight, the protesters were released and unrepentant.
He refuses to set up an inquiry that will look at his actions, the way he handled the intelligence, the way he made a case for war. That was just outrageous. What is he afraid of?
But last word today to the protesters, released and unrepentant.
Going into Parliament was quite an inspiring action for me, because it always seems like one of these sort of unreachable or untouchable institutions, when in fact it was pretty easy.
More than 1 million people told Blair not to go to war, but he still did. So that just shows that Blair needs to be confronted more directly.
Voting once every 4 years is not enough to allow the government the type of power that they have.
What matters for me isn't what happens in Parliament, but the action that we all take to try and create the kind of world we want to see.
On the day we're just really lucky. Direct action is 90% luck and 10% getting up on time.
Station is a gentrification. Global syndication is the shaping of the nation. ABC, Disney, NBC, GE, Murdoch is Foxy, and with a hint, he owns a pen. The camera, the sword, by Coke, by Ford, getting broke, getting bored.
And experience your psychic connection.
We don't have shit to say, we don't have anything to do.
Selling attitude like food for the masses, junk consumption, we are lumping, just a bumpkin to the corporate state. You can't satiate what you can't negotiate. Yo,